before his death. Simply, I've been to the mountaintop.
Amen.
Thank you very kindly, my friends. As I listened to Ralph Abernathy and his eloquent and generous introduction, and then thought about myself, I wondered who he was talking about. It's always good to have your closest friend and associate to say something good about you.
Yeah.
And Ralph Abernathy is the best friend that I've had in this world. I'm delighted to see each of you here tonight in spite of a storm warning. You reveal that you're determined to go on anyhow. Something is happening in Memphis. Something is happening in our world. And you know, if I were to stand at the beginning of time with the possibility of taking a kind of general and paranomic view of the whole of human history up until now, and the Almighty said to me, Martin Luther King, which age would you like to live in? I would take a mental flight by Egypt, and I would watch God's children in their magnificent trek from the dark dungeons of Egypt through, or rather across the Red Sea, through the wilderness on toward the Promised Land.
Yeah.
And in spite of this magnificence, I wouldn't stop there. I would move on by Greece and take my mind to Mount Olympus. And I would see Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Euphrates, and Aristophanes assembled around the Paratheon. And I would watch them around the Paratheon as they discussed the great and eternal issues of reality. But I wouldn't stop there. I would go on even to greater heyday of the Roman Empire, and I would see developments around there through various emperors and leaders. But I wouldn't stop there. I would even come up to the day of the Renaissance and get a quick picture of all that the Renaissance did for the culture and aesthetics life of man. But I wouldn't stop there. I would even go by the way the man for whom I am named had his habit, and I would watch Martin Luther as he tacked his 95 theses on the door at the church of the Wittenberg. But I wouldn't stop there. I would come up even to 1863 and watch a vacillating president by the name of Abraham Lincoln finally come to the conclusion that he had to sign the Emancipation Proclamation. But I wouldn't stop there. I would even come up to the early 30s and see a man grappling with the problems of the bankruptcy of his nation, and come with an eloquent cry that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. But I wouldn't stop there. Strangely enough, I would turn to the Almighty and say, if you allow me to live just a few years into the second half of the 20th century, I would be happy. Now that's a strange statement to make, because the world is all messed up. The nation is sick, troubles in the land, confusion all around. That's a strange statement, but I know somehow that only when it's dark enough can you see the stars. And I see God working in this period of the 20th century in a way that men, in some strange way, are responding. Something is happening in our world. The masses of people are rising up, and wherever they are assembled today, whether they are in Johannesburg, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, Ghana, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, Jackson, Mississippi, or even Memphis, Tennessee, the cry is always the same. We want to be free.
Yeah.
And another reason that I'm happy to live in this period is that we have been forced to a point where we are going to have to grapple with the problems that men have been trying to grapple with through history. But the demands didn't force them to do that. And also in the human rights revolution, if something isn't done, and done in a hurry to bring the colored people of the world out of their long years of poverty, their long years of hurt and neglect, the whole world is doomed. Now I'm just happy that God has allowed me to live in this period to see what is unfolding. And I am happy that He allowed me to be in Memphis. Now we are going to march again. We're going to march again in order to put the issue where it is supposed to be and force everybody to see that there are 1,300 of God's children here suffering. Sometimes going hungry, going through a dark and dreary night, wondering how this thing is going to come out. That's the issue. And we've got to say to the nation, we know how it's coming out. For when people get caught up with which is right and willing to sacrifice for it, there is no stopping point short of victory. We aren't going to let any mace stop us. We are masters in our nonviolent movement in disarming police forces. They don't know what to do. I've seen them so often. I remember in Birmingham, Alabama, when we were in the majestic struggle there, we would move out of the 16th Street Baptist Church day after day. By the hundreds, we would move out. And Bull Connor would tell them to send the dogs forth. And they did come. But we just went before the dogs singing, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We need all of you. And you know, what's beautiful to me is to see all of these ministers of the gospel. It's a marvelous picture. Who is it that is supposed to articulate the longings and aspirations of the people more than the preacher? Somehow the preacher must have a kind of fire shut up in his bones. And whenever injustice is around, he tells it. Somehow the preacher must be an Amos and said, when God speaks, who can but prophesy? Again with Amos, let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Somehow the preacher must say with Jesus, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me. And he anointed me to deal with the problems of the poor. Yes. And I want to commend the preachers under the leadership of these noble men. James Lawson, one who has been in the struggle for many years. He's been in jail for struggling. He's been kicked out of the Vanderbilt University for his struggle. But he's still going on, fighting for the rights of his people. Reverend Ralph Jackson, Billy Kyles. I could just go right on down the list, but time will not permit. But I want to thank all of them. And I want you to thank them, because so often preachers aren't concerned about anything but themselves. And I'm always happy to see a relevant ministry. It's all right to talk about long white robes over yonder in all of its symbolism. But ultimately people want some suits and dresses, shoes to wear down here. It's all right to talk about the streets flowing with milk and honey. But God has commanded us to be concerned about the slums down here and his children who can't eat 3 square meals a day. It's all right to talk about the New Jerusalem, but one day God's preachers must talk about the New York, the new York, the new Atlanta, the new Philadelphia, the new Los Angeles, the new Memphis, Tennessee. This is what we have to do. Yes, sir. We don't have to argue with anybody. We don't have to curse and go around acting bad with our words. We don't need any bricks and bottles. We don't need any Molotov cocktails. We just need to go around to these stores and these massive industries in our country and say, God sent us by here to say to you that you are not treating his children right. And we've come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment, where God's children are concerned. Now, if you are not prepared to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow. And our agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from you. And so as a result of this, we are asking you tonight to go out and tell your neighbors not to buy Coca-Cola in Memphis. Go by and tell them not to buy sea salt milk. Tell them not to buy, what is that other brand? Wonder Bread. And what is that other bread company? Jesse? Tell them not to buy Hart's bread. As Jesse Jackson has said, up until now, unto the garbage, men have been feeling pain. Now we must kind of dispute the pain. We are choosing these companies because they haven't been fair in their hiring policies. And we are choosing them because they can begin the process of saying they are going to support the needs of the rights of these men who are on strike. And then they can come downtown to tell the Mayor Lebo to do what is right. But not only that, we are going to strengthen black industries. I call upon you to take your money out of the banks of downtown and deposit your money into Tri-State Bank. We want a banking movement in Memphis. Go by the Savings and Loans Association. I'm not asking you something that we don't do ourselves at the SCLC. Judge Hooks and others will tell you that we have an account here in the Savings Loans Association from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. We are telling you to follow what you are doing. Put your money there. You have 6 or 7 black insurance companies here in the city of Memphis. Take out your insurance there. We want to have an